there is that misunderstanding that if they have an investment from a VC, that it's free money, but it's not free money. It's kind of like a loan. If you have a brand where people trust and you don't even have to do a lot of marketing. You don't have to spend a lot. If you want to run an event anywhere in the world, any city, you have to be agnostic. So, and you have to look for good people, and you have to look for a good business.
What one key piece of advice would you like to give to all the entrepreneurs watching and listening today?
A lot of people they think they need a lot of preparation. Yeah, don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of the Business Growth Show. I'm your host, Athin Cassiotis, and today I have an awesome guest. His name is Elio Assuncao. He's the founder of the Venture Capital World Summit, where he orchestrates global investment conferences designed to connect entrepreneurs with the capital and expertise needed for international growth. His leadership has created a worldwide community that thrives on fostering business prosperity and global economic benefits. Welcome, Elio, and thank you for being on the Business Growth Show.
Thank you, Ethan. Thank you for the Business Growth Show. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for having me here. I'm looking forward to share this conversation with you and with your audience. And whatever I can do to help, I'm more than honored to help and answer any questions. So thank you.
Yeah, beautiful, mate. You're very welcome, and I'm sure it's going to be a very impactful, show here for everyone watching and listening today. And you are a successful entrepreneur. Yeah. So for those people who don't know who you are, introduce yourself by telling us a little bit more about you and your journey.
Okay, thank you. Well, that's a great question. Well, I'm originally from Portugal. I moved to the UK about 30 years ago. So that was my first venture. Around about 17 years old, I went to the university in the UK, did engineering degree, ended up doing two more degrees in engineering, all different subjects. That already showed how unsettled I tend to be on subjects. I ended up studying AI for about 4 years in my last degree, although that PhD I haven't completed. Halfway through, I kind of disagreed with the mentor. So I just said AI can't be applied on a general basis to everyone. And that was at the time, 20 years ago, a bit of a no subject. So and then for some reason, someone invited me to go to a networking event. And I said, yeah, sure. So I went to, and then I started to say, look, there's a lot of things I can do. And then by joining other networking events, I could see some of the things that um, they could do better, they could improve. And I was never happy with the events I used to go. That were either too professional, which it works for a lot of people, but there wasn't a lot of personal understanding, trust, and getting to know people. So it was all very factory based, do X and you get Y. So that wasn't quite the type of events I enjoyed going. I prefer to go to an event where people can talk to each other, understand each other. Of course, do business, but there is no obligation. The main outcome, if you like, it would be to do, how you can help someone develop and grow. That would be perhaps a good outcome. And then I started to, someone suggested, why don't you start open coffee events? So I said, yeah, sure. I never did any organize any event before. So at the time I was quite naive. I didn't know how to run an event, anything like that. So I think I invited about 100 people, and they all said yes. So being a little bit not able to read people very well, I assumed that all the 100 people would be there. So I got a room for 100 people, and for the first hour, no one showed up. I was quite shocked. So I said, what's going on here, And then I realized some people just say yes for being polite. And then the culture in some countries, you have to read and understand what makes people, do things. But for after waiting an hour, then some people started to show up. I said, "Oh, okay, so it's not all that bad." And the meeting was only for 2 hours, but after people started showing up, we stayed for another hour and a half. So the meeting ended up being 3 hours. Um, and then it started from then. From that, I continued to do open coffee events, and they were quite successful, and they were getting people up to 100 people. But then, because there was no main topic, there was no main subject for the meetings. It was just open coffee. People would come in, have a coffee, getting to know each other, talk to each other. It started to attract a lot of corporate salespeople, and then it became a little bit salesy, which some people didn't quite enjoy. They used to say, every time I go to your event, it's a free event. I have a good time, but I always end up buying stuff I don't need. So, and then someone I said, well, I can see why. Some people would buy, and all different things, from services, from arts, from all different types of things people would purchase. I would get no commission. That was another, because I was still believing I was doing good for the society and for the people. And then someone's actually said to me, look, if you want to help people, the best way you can do that is through investing. Because if you invest, even if you don't invest yourself, if you do an investment event, people can help themselves, and then, even if you don't know how to run an investment event or how to do an investment, you just invite a few good investors to the meeting, to the event, and then go from there, and then at least then you have a select audience, people that want to better themselves. They're not there just to try to sell stuff to other people. And then it becomes a bit more about growth and personal development and how you can do things better in general. So, and that's how it developed. Then the open coffee then kind of went away, and I started to do the investment events. Even before that, I also joined Startup Grind, and then I learned a lot how to run startup events. So I did that for about uh, nearly 3 years. So that was quite successful. And then I decided to go with the VC events because I felt, because with the startup event, there's only so much you can support people. And most events on most startups after the second year, there isn't too much out there for them unless in terms of support, because most of the incentives are for them to actually start the business. And even startups after 2 years, about 90% will not be successful. But that's just life. That happens everywhere in every community. It's not possible for all startups to be successful. That just doesn't work. So the best way is to connect people and support it. Because even if they can't run one business, if they're not successful for whatever reasons, which in most cases is not their own fault, they can start another business and they can try a different thing, and that's what keeps everything moving. So keeps the entrepreneurship train going, if I can use that term. But a lot of people, which, once you become an entrepreneur, it's very difficult to go back to your corporate job. So it's you have to do things that, if you can see that you can add value, you can be happy with what you do and you can have a successful life. That's what is all about. So, and then coming back to the VC events, I wanted originally to go to an event where I would meet investors, but all the events about investors, they're either associations, public bodies, official. organizations which they're not actually there to support entrepreneurs, they're there to support the investors, which is fine, things like law, updates, tax, things like that, which is good for them. But for an entrepreneur, they have to go, they could spend a whole year going meetings to meetings to try and meet a VC. And a VC, they probably get, depending on the size of the VC, they probably get 100 applications in a day. Some would get 1,000 in a week. So they haven't got the time, the tools, to meet the right people. So they can decide to invest in one company or one person, but it tends to be a bit of a lucky game. So, and then they all tend to follow each other because if a big VC decides to invest in one company, in one area, in one subject, in one topic, then everyone follows because a lot of VCs, they're not huge companies and they haven't got the time to do the due diligence. So if one big company decides to make one change, then everyone tends to follow each other because they assume they did their research. Sometimes bad things happen because even the big companies sometimes don't always do their own um, homework the best they can. So that's why sometimes some people get crashes in the market or things like AI a couple of years ago. So it's kind of it's a people's game, but they haven't got the time to meet in person most of the time. And when they do have time to meet in person, it tends to be a junior position that meets someone and then they write a report and they go to a committee, and it can take months for them to come to a decision. And some VCs invest in ideas, but that's very risky. It's not always the best approach, I feel. So the best approach is to find businesses which are already successful, which is what most investors want, of course. But they have some understanding, not just of the business itself, but the people behind the business, the opportunity, the markets, and events like the ones I do, like someone, even yourself mentioned to me before. There aren't many events like this, completely dependent events like I do. So I don't have anyone saying, or I'm not channeling any potential investment to any particular VC. I'm quite independent, and then I'm here to help the community. So I'm working in the best interest of an entrepreneur and the VC. I'm here to, if I can support, VCs, how they work together. They can come and promote the portfolios because VCs are always raising themselves. They're looking for a second fund, a third fund. So they always trying to develop the businesses, which is absolutely fine. So a lot of VCs, they come and they promote the portfolio, what they did in the past, because that's also one way where entrepreneurs can choose who they would like their investors to be. So there's a lot of understanding. They can actually understand how their investor works, what they do, what they don't do, the things they like, the things they don't like. And, because an investment can become an official marriage, and in a marriage, if you're going to be together for 5 years, you have to work with each other, on a daily basis. At least people have to write the reports to each other. They have to keep the targets, and there is a lot of misunderstanding from the startups and entrepreneurs about VCs and vice versa. So these days, although some VCs are now being created by successful entrepreneurs, so there is that as well. But in a VC, when you have maybe the few leaders, and then you have junior positions, which makes um, kind of the filtering process. It's not always, well, it's almost impossible to pick the best people to, because you just don't know what's going to happen in the future. Can they handle the pressure? Can they do things that they haven't done before? Going to different markets, understanding the culture. It becomes a little bit, going to an event, it's not just the marketing, but it's also assuring yourself that you are investing in a company which you can see that there is potential and you feel a bit more confident in your investments. And also, the education part. A lot of people think that VCs have a bad reputation. That's a lot of done by the marketing but they are just professional managers and they all just want to do the best. So they want to look after their investments, their own investors as well. So they just want to make sure everyone's happy. This is why they spend a lot of time. They do tend to be a bit cautious, but they're not as bad people as people may perceive. And within the VC community, then the events I do, although they are called VCs, venture capital, but we welcome family offices, private equity, high net worth individuals, different classes. Although VCs tend to be the best in terms of returns for investing. So that's been for the last 20 years and still continues to be the best class, better than real estate or any other investments you can think of. In terms of medium term, VCs are still the best because they give you the best returns and it advances the economy, creates jobs. It's good for the markets. They'll always look for technology, not just in software, but in other aspects. There's all different classes of VCs. It could be technology in farming, for example. So there is a lot of potential with VCs, but in general, VCs they develop the economy, and they do have some support in some countries from governments, like in Europe, for example. There's a new VCs coming up in France and in Germany, where they are being supported by the governments, and the European Commission is working with countries to work together as well, so that's international aspects. And in general, why I went international. It's a funny story because everyone kept asking me to do in different locations in different countries, and at the time I wasn't quite sure. So, well, okay, I don't know if I can do it, but everyone kept incentivizing me to do it. So I said, okay, what can go wrong? I just do it and see what happens. I have no experience to go abroad and do an event. But I did have a large network, and everyone kept saying you should do it. The first event I did was in Germany, outside the UK, and this lady used to speak to me almost on a daily basis. Whatever you need, come and do it. We're here to support you. And I said, okay, I'll do it. Of course, a month before she disappeared, but that's okay because I still, once I commit, I do go ahead. I don't like to disappoint people. It doesn't make me feel good when that happens. So when I make a promise, I tend to do it. I still need to have a business case to justify, of course. But that's what I tend to do. Once I give my word. People always asking, "Are you sure you're coming?" I said, "Yes." Once I tell you that I'm coming, I'm coming. Don't worry. And a lot of investors they don't like to travel, um, or they don't have the time, and so they just like to wait people to come to them. But in reality, you have to go out there and find opportunities and find new niches, new markets, and talent is everywhere. Talent is just in one country. It's not just in one city. Talent is everywhere. So, and now, when if you let's say someone from big country, they own a trade mission. Even trade missions, they're good for, you know, how governments, politics and how things like that look. But, from a practical point of view, if you're an entrepreneur with a good idea, you're hardworking, you don't want to be using one legal team, one legal accountant, which has been approved by a corporate somewhere in an office, which they have no experience in running a business themselves. They just look at the policy. So events that which are independent and they're looking for the best talents, people that are not looking for borders. There aren't many events out there, So I have to say, what I do is slightly unique, although other events do have huge support, but they tend to be funneled for one particular either association or company, which may not be always in the best interest of the entrepreneur. So if you're looking for independent events, that is, no strings attached, then I'm just doing my own plug-in for the event. But and then, the size. Everyone said, how big should an event be? I've been to, for example, I shouldn't say other events, but I've been to an event when they go for 5 days and they have over 70,000 people. And that's great for to fill hotels and for the economy. That's fantastic. That's fine. But for an entrepreneur that wants to connect with genuine people, even myself, I've been to that event and I ended up spending most of the time meeting people for only about a minute because that's all you're allowed to speak to people for about a minute. And I can't remember the first person I spoke to, what they did, and it becomes a bit exercise tick box, and there's a lot of VCs do that as well. They just say, look, they tell their investors, look, I've met 100 people this week, and their investors go, oh wow, that's a lot of people. I know, so all your money, management fees, they're being well spent. Look how hard we are working. But all that is tends to be a lot of noise, because a lot of startups they tend to be they tend to say a lot of things which aren't proven yet. It's not that they do not have good intentions; they do have good intentions, but they do have to prove themselves in every claim they make. So you can't make an assessment in 1 minute. That just doesn't. Even in real life, even outside of business, you don't go to a shop and decide to buy, I don't know, a coffee, in just a few seconds. You have to say, okay, I like my cappuccino because I have cappuccino in another coffee, and that's the type of coffee. But you do not make that decision, in a few seconds. You have to, you must have tried cappuccino before. You like that type of coffee, so you already know what you're having, when you choose that particular coffee, as an example. So um, a way to bridge, especially these days, international markets is just to go out there and promote people and their ecosystems, and let people uh, uh, give people an opportunity, a window of opportunity without being always, I won't say stuck, but being always with the same local partners. That is, the world is huge. So someone in Brazil could be interested in a company in Sydney, for example. And that the world of opportunities is out there. So, and a lot of people, they tend to be a bit stuck where, if it's a smaller city and they met, let's say, most of the people they tend to meet and say, okay, no one wants to invest in me. I don't know what to do. What should I do? And so, but when you have an international perspective, it's okay. You've met everyone in your city. let's see what we can do from, if there are other investors that might be interested in what you do. It doesn't have to be always in your city or only in your city. And that's what I tend to do. So your limit is not only a city, and a lot of VCs, especially the international, most VCs, they want this scale. So if you have a successful business in Sydney, for example, they want to replicate that in Melbourne, they want to do that in Perth, they want to go outside Australia. And once the business is proven, the model is proven, then the understanding the market, all that the VC supports you on that. A lot of VCs, they are international as well. They have different offices. Um, and that's what they want. They want a proven model and they want scale, and that's what works with for international investors, which angel investors that they can't always do that support. Investors are good to at the seed stage or just at the idea stage, but once you come to a stage where you need further support, as I was saying, a startup after 2 years, they do need some sort of support without relying on official channels. They just need someone that has experience, that they know how to invest in a business. And then sometimes investors and between entrepreneurs and investors, you have to be careful because some investors, they don't always have the best interests of the entrepreneur in mind. So this is why it's important to understand and vet your investors as well. This is why when you go to a trusted network, yes, there are many sharks out there, but hopefully, all the work that we tend to do in the background, we tend to vet a lot of bad reputation investors. Because it's not just the money, it's the support, it's the whole package. Someone that understands what you do, how can they support you, and understanding of the markets, how, these are the questions that a lot of entrepreneurs they should ask themselves as well. But if someone says, "Oh, someone wants to invest in me," and I'm happy with that, but that's only um, money doesn't solve your problems. You still have to grow your business and you still have to expand the best way you can and in the most reputable way you can, of course. And if you have a brand where people trust and you don't even have to do a lot of marketing. You don't have to spend a lot because you look at big brands like maybe I shouldn't say any names, but if you're buying a pair of shoes, and why do you choose to buy one particular pair of shoes when it is more expensive? Because you trust the brand. So, and this is what most entrepreneurs should think about, not just the money, but how they can make also a better ecosystem for your business, and for the people that surround you as well. Because investors, they want to have a good balance in what they do as well. And they want to have they can see, they want to try and make a difference. So these days there are a lot of investors, they focus on, for example, the environment, on women balance, and there's a lot of imbalance on the gender gap. Traditionally, VCs, they've been male dominated, and a lot of VCs with good causes as well. So they try to do the best they can to, um, depending who their limited partners are, because VCs, they everyone thinks they are rich people, but they're not always rich people. I would say 75% of all VCs around the world, they are quite small companies, and a lot of them are startups as well. So they still are, they don't have the resources, but they still want to make good investments because that's what the limited partners demand. So they are under pressure themselves as well. Um, so there is that perception that a lot of investors are rich, but it's not always the case. Yes, they have money, but the money they invest, it's not their money. So they still have to give that money back. And the same with entrepreneurs, when they do have, there is that misunderstanding that if they have an investment from a VC, that it's free money, but it's not free money. It's kind of like a loan. They still have to pay it back. And But if everyone makes a good return, they all become very successful, and everyone's very happy. That's fine. And there is a risk, of course. It's almost impossible that every investment that you make will be successful. That just doesn't happen. Um, but that's how you grow. And VCs, yes, generally, their sweet target is two good investments a year. That would be fantastic if, assuming they do 10 investments a year. So if they have two successful out of, I don't know, if they get minimum 1,000 applications a year, that means that 998 um, businesses haven't received investment. So in terms of the scale and the potential, even for VC, more funds to develop is huge, because um, the potential for success, the private markets are even bigger than public markets in terms of small and medium-sized businesses out there. It's a huge market. Of course, being a private market, there isn't so much information, but the potential for scale and growth is huge. VCs, of course, if you are a huge VC, you can invest in public markets, but most VCs don't, because that's not their purpose. That would be more for private equity. Um, but in terms of the events that I run, it's quite agnostic. I don't like to focus only in AI, for example, although that's my expertise. But if you want to run an event anywhere in the world, any city, you have to be agnostic. So, and you have to look for good people, and you have to look for a good business. It doesn't matter what it is, um, but if they are a good entrepreneur, they can make it happen. So, and this is the things that a lot of books will never teach you. And you have to be on the ground. Most people think that by being online or watching online, I say, well, if you're watching something online and if you want to make an investment, you can have a great online background, but that's not going to connect you, for real until you actually meet in person, because that makes a huge difference. So people just want to either live stream. That's good, if you go into a theater, and you like to watch Shark Tank, that's quite entertaining. But in real life, even the Shark Tank, they still say that's spending the due diligence, that's pending the contracts being signed, and everything you said is true. So, but from an entertainment point of view, that's fantastic. It gets people glued to the TV. They learn a little bit of basics on business, which is fine. But for larger investments, international, especially international investing, you can't be sitting, let's say, in Miami, watching a live stream of a business in Sydney. That doesn't connect. That doesn't, it doesn't actually give an appeal. If you're serious about investing, you have to, get on a plane, go out there, meet people. Preferably people that won't waste too much of your time, which is always what I tend to prefer to do. Um, and just filter the noise, but you have to be in person. This is why I do say on the website that in person makes all the difference. If you just want to save a few bucks by sitting in your office and watching online, that's good, for some, stats, if you're a large event, that's great. But, when it comes to Series A and above, you have to be out there. You have to meet people. And, even if you don't go, people have to come to you. But you have to meet them in person. So when someone says to me, "Oh, I just want to watch online, I just want to live stream," and I say, "Okay, but this is not, the type of event best for you. If you want like that, if you're just looking for ideas, then you can go to startup events. Someone that is about to start a business, then you can pick up a lot of ideas and you can watch on live stream and things like that. But if you want to actually do business, you have to meet in person, and that's what I like to do. Yes. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that's went a bit so long, but
No, it
it's
was awesome, Elio. You shared so much gold there, right, for everybody. And I'll summarize like a couple of things here of what you said for
yeah.
everybody because there was so much gold there. Was like, with your VC Venture Capital World Summit, it's about a trusted network, independent, right? Because just because someone gives you money, they may not be the right person, and it's not biased. And obviously, being in person events, obviously you get to build the relationship, right? So that's really powerful. But the entrepreneurship side, obviously, whether you're a startup, a lot of them fail. You've got to have a great idea, but also it's about the team. Are you going to execute right on the vision? So that they're not just investing in the idea; they're a lot of the time investing in the people, right, to grow and what's the brand and everything about that positioning of that business. And obviously the different types of groups for investing, venture capital, angel investors, family offices, private equity, all of that, and meeting them in person, which is important. And I think that's for any relationship, right? Like if you want to partner with somebody as well in a business, or you want them to invest in you, or you want to invest in them, at some point when you meet them in person, everything changes. Like I went to the US recently, and I purposely stayed there longer and met people in person. All of a sudden, opportunities have come from that, right? And even if it's just once, and then you go on Zoom after, that can make all the difference. In the relationship. So I think that's a really, really important point there. And I guess one question that I'd like to ask you quickly, just for the people out there, because there's probably a lot of people out there that want to raise capital, right? And a lot of them haven't done it before, and obviously a lot of businesses fail. What key things could you talk about the process? What's included? What's important to, because you've invested in a lot of businesses as well, right? And seen a lot of pitches, is the ones that succeed, what do you think's the recipe, I guess, of what to do for the highest chance, of success of raising capital?
I would say follow up. A lot of people don't always follow up. Everyone can do a nice speech, and anyone can do, the business stand out. But there is a lot of um, hype, if you like. Uh, okay, yeah. Um, so I would say the best way to, there is no magic formula. It does, once you have a good relationship, everything fits into the. But then the investors, they can go to a committee and someone has a different opinion. Or maybe an investor is not ready at the right time to make these investments. So maybe they haven't got capital to deploy, or it's not the right time for them. Um, so sometimes it can be, of course, you need to have your profit. If you don't have a profit, if you don't have sales, it's difficult for an investor to visit, to make a final decision on your business. But I would say my advice for any entrepreneur is don't raise money until uh, you know spend money on spend time and money on your business. Don't spend time and money chasing investors. If you are a good business, investors will see you. You don't have to be chasing people. If you have a good business, just be yourself, grow your business, because once you grow your business, you'll be noticed. People will notice you. You don't have to worry about doing lots of things, and um, things that people assume they have to do. Because once you're quite profitable, You make a difference in the market, people will see you. Even if it's a competitor, they will notice you. So, and if a competitor can notice you, investors can as well, because investors that they're active, especially the VCs. That's what they spend on most of their time. They are looking for deals. Then they're not just sitting in their office waiting for people to come in. They're quite active, looking for people as well. So, I would say, my best advice I can give to people, just focus on their business, and only take investments, if it comes to a point where it makes a huge difference to your business. Don't take investment just that because you want to keep your business going. That's not sustainable. At some point later, your business will need more money, and then you'll be asking money all the time just to keep your business going. That's not a good investment. The good investment is where you want to scale. So you have a successful business, you have a profitable business, and you just want to open a new office. You just want to, make your business go international, and you haven't got the resources. You need the support of someone that can do that, so, and help you there. So that's the stage where you actually need investment. If you need investment just to start the business, um, it's not it's not impossible, but you're not going to find the best investors for your business. You will find a lot of opportunities. Of, someone that is want to deploy a capital, maybe for tax reasons, for example, they not always have the best interest of the entrepreneur in mind. So, like when I first started the business, because I always see a lot of marketing, and everyone says, "Oh, I got an investment. That's it. Now I can slow down. There's nothing I have to do now. And now I'm successful because I got an investment." But that's only the start of the story. And no one told me that you can carry on without investment as well, because no one says that. Everyone says you're only successful if you have investment. But if you grow your business organically, and if you do very well, there's nothing wrong with that as well. But and then only at that stage when you can't do any more on your own, then you can say, okay, I do need to scale the business, and now I can do better. And then you ask for investments, but for a good reason. You don't ask investment just to survive.
Yeah.
So yes.
Yeah, awesome. No, Elio, there's really great points there on what's important, having a great business. And yes, at the start can be a bit challenging, if you need money to get going. But if you've got a profitable business, it's a lot easier to raise money. And these are these different rounds that Elio was talking about, right? You might have, family and friends or seed rounds, then you have Series A and, Series B, etc., right? Where, you've already got something that's working within the business there. So yeah, really so important. And I think it's also important to have the right people on your team. Like for example, like I'm even though I dropped out of school, I went back to do an MBA. So I've got a lot of great business knowledge and understand about investing. And a lot of people don't have that, right? So if you don't have the right expertise, you got to find trusted people around you, right? Advisors, coaches, mentors, things like that. Maybe like us here, like Elio and I, or other people out there that will help you through that process, because you don't know what you don't know, and you want to put your best foot forward in the business there, to give you the best possible chance, of success. So I think, so many great points that you shared here today, Elio. And I guess as we're starting to wrap up here today, what one key piece of advice would you like to give to all the entrepreneurs watching and listening today?
Just go for it. Don't think too much. A lot of people, they think they need a lot of preparation. Yeah, don't be afraid to make mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes, and it's all part of the learning process. If you have an idea, you think you can do it, just go for it. Don't worry about getting everything aligned and waiting for the right time. Just go for it. If you have an idea today, and you think you can do it, start tomorrow. Don't wait for a week. Don't wait for a month. Don't wait for a year. The longer you wait, the more you're thinking you'll be doing. and then it's only going to get worse. If you have an idea, just go for it. That's what um, and don't be afraid of making mistakes, because everybody makes mistakes. Even, well-experienced people make mistakes, It's all part of the game, If you don't make mistakes, you're not doing anything. So if you want to do something, just go for it.
Yeah.
That would be my advice.
Yeah, definitely. I love that one. Completely agree on just making it happen. And yeah, you figure it out how after, right? And so yeah, we connected through our network. So I learned about your awesome journey, traveling the world, delivering your venture capital world summits. An awesome guy. I'm sure you continue to help entrepreneurs, with the capital and expertise needed, for their international growth. And yeah, so much gold. And you really shared how it actually is, right? The key components of what you need to think about as an entrepreneur, and when you're looking for an investment, and what the investors are looking for, and how to find them, and being part of something here today. So I think it's really, really powerful stuff here from experience, right? That's the difference, people, is that you don't learn this from textbooks, right? You have to be around people like Elio here, that's been around so many of them, to understand how this world works. And I'm fortunate to be around this world as well, and to have met you and being part of the event, and seeing what awesome work you're doing out there to help people really create that impact that they're wanting. So very grateful that we connected. Look forward to partnering as well with you. So Elio, how can people find you and get in contact with you?
The lucky is my name is quite easy, so there aren't too many people with my name, but anyone can search on LinkedIn Elio Assuncao, and hopefully they can see straight away. Or you can Google me as well. So that's I'm kind of blessed to have not unique, but not many people with my name, so it's quite easy to find.
Yeah, beautiful. I'm similar with a unique name, so that works out well with us, Elio. And yeah, definitely, I'll chuck it in the show notes there for everybody. So definitely connect Elio on LinkedIn there, and look him up. What he's doing with the Venture Capital World Summit, it is amazing there, and just you're an awesome guy, right? And you're really there to help people as much as you can, with what you do. So I really love being around people like you that really are being intentional and impactful in a positive way. So mate, it's been a pleasure interviewing you, and thanks for being on the Business Growth Show.
Thank you very much, Evan. It's been an honor to be on your show. Thank you.
Thank you for watching and listening to the Business Growth Show, where we talk about everything on business growth. And please like, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review. You can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube as Athin Cassiotis, or visit my website, athincassiotis.com. And if you want to grow and scale your business, you'd reach out to me on any platform to see if we're a good fit. So until next time, remember that our business grows where we learn skills and take action using them in spite of fear. So let's create wealth and freedom together.